Welcome back to this edition of World Talks, where every word matters, with me, Anna Kalczyńska. Good morning. It's going to be my way or no way. That's what the chief executive of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, seems to be conveying to the world. Emboldened by the last change to Facebook and Instagram, as he puts it, freeing the platform from over-censorship and allowing more unmoderated politics, Zuckerberg bluntly calls on Donald Trump to intervene to stop the EU from fining American tech companies for breaching antitrust rules. Now, Dr. Dominika Kasprowicz, Jagiellonian University, joins us now to explain the potential next developments and the dilemma the EU faces with this stance. Good morning, madam. Good to have you.
Good morning.
There's a difference between liberty of speech and an absolute liberty of speech. In Europe, the press law entails responsibility for published content. Is there a leverage that EU could use against Meta, or is it just a plain blackmail?
Of course, it's an element of the political game and expression of a new type of a soft power that normally was ascribed to the national governments, and these days lies in the hands of the biggest corporations and people of great influence like Mr. Elon Musk. So definitively this is a new opening of the war of words. We are also witnessing, and we are also a kind of victim of. Definitively, there are some means and actions that can be taken on the level on the EU, also on the level of the national governments and national civil societies and media. I'm not exactly sure if they are a direct means we would be really counting on. What we definitely see is the new opening. It's the new approach to the set of factors that are driving many of the voters and their electoral behaviors.
Well, and what actions could be taken then?
When we think of what is really happening, we can say that it's nothing new under the sun. The level of influence of the social media over the electoral behaviors already has been quite well researched and quite well discussed throughout the intergovernmental bodies. Just to mention the Cambridge Analytica case, that was one of the biggest and the first case that was so well scrutinized by academia and by analytics. So it's not something that we were not aware of. What is quite new is the very open approach of Mr. Elon Musk and his active presence in the sphere of politics. And it's happening even before the new US president has been even sworn in. What can be done? We already have a set of recommendations that were produced and proposed, both for the individual level, like citizens who are consumers of the media content in the times of election. We also have a series of laws that went in force, like the European Act of that helps to narrow down the scope of social media platform influence. We also have, in case of certain countries, the domestic rules that can be used to prevent especially spread of the disinformation. The question is to what extent the political actors, governments or commissioners or intergovernmental bodies will be willing to start this kind of new clash, new kind of encounter that we haven't seen before on the global scale. The clash between the individual voter and the global corporation, the clash between the global corporations and the domestic governments.
So it's a question of political will, as you're mentioning. But Mark Zuckerberg argues that the European Commission application of competition rules is almost like a tariff on American tech companies. But considering the revenues Meta makes on internet traffic in Europe, aren't these tariffs and his demands legitimate? Maybe they should apply.
I believe that what we are witnessing is, let's say, a new stage of the already longly ongoing conflict in between the interest of the companies, like global corporations, and the interest of the national states and their societies. I would what I would definitively would like to see is a comprehensive and quite fairly and clearly expressed approach of the European Union and the Polish government, to name it very precisely, towards this approach, but also to the new ones that definitively will be coming in the near future. Whether they are legitimate or not, the claims of Mr. Musk, there were in the recent past examples of the actions taken by local governments, media outlets, and European politicians that would point to this kind of incomprehensiveness. What I'm looking forward is the very clear and very firm response to those first allegation and second requirements or demands.
So what should be the Polish stance in this regard? Confronting the USA in this very moment is not exactly the best strategic move, Poland, especially if the new Trump administration is going to continue its support for Ukraine. So these two separate topics are nevertheless tragically intertwined. A different approach between EU and Poland regarding Washington would not be a first discrepancy in respective foreign policies. So what's the potential room for maneuver for Warsaw here?
The international politics, especially in the times of war, it's never easy. It's always a matter of choice of the priority for the given moment. And for the Polish government and for the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's of course challenging times, being in between the pressure caused by the Russian aggression in Ukraine and also the very dynamic and complicated at this point turnover in the US. Nevertheless, what I think we should do is to keep in mind the ultimate effects this kind of actions, like the opening for possibly spreading a disinformation on the Polish society, Polish elections, Polish state institutions, and the Polish position among other European countries. Therefore, I would expect that the results of the work that were done by the committee, the advisory board to the Prime Minister that I'm a member of, which is currently scrutinizing the course of action, the means, but also the effects of the disinformation spread, mostly through the means of social platforms and online media, should not be forgotten, should be taken into consideration and acknowledged as a quite important signal that nevertheless, and in spite of the difficulty in sorting out this kind of clash on the level of international affairs, still the costs of not doing enough, of not taking actions, of not trying to find means for efficient stopping of the disinformation spread, especially in the times of elections, like the presidential elections forthcoming in Poland, would be, in my opinion, not understandable.
But so do you think that a measure which would be a very decisive one and a very harsh one of, for instance, shutting down the social media platforms for a period of elections, for instance, is that even foreseeable?
I don't think it's something that is very seriously considered. Let's be clear, the process of disinformation and the process of micro marketing that is being efficiently used in steering the attitudes and electoral behaviors in the recent past is not only done through the means of social platforms. It's been distributed and redistributed in the very complex, very subtle network of multimodal media channels and platforms. Therefore, switching off or shutting down the social media or access to social media in the times of elections would not sort out the problem itself. It would probably narrow down the scope of its activity, but it will not prevent from influencing the minds, the emotions, the behaviors of the recipients, audiences of the media, domestically speaking or worldwide. That would be my take on that.
All right. So just to wrap up, because we have a little time left, but I want to ask also about Romania. Yesterday we saw thousands protests outside the Romanian top court over cancelled presidential elections. So what, in your mind, was the influence of disinformation on Romanian elections? Which methods could we observe there? What lessons also might we learn from this case?
The first lesson we have learned, and it's not only coming from Romania, is that times of elections are the times when we see the intensification of the spread of disinformation. Secondly, that it has been spread through the social platforms, but also through other means, especially electronic media. Secondly, that it's and can be really efficient when it's not debunked or pre-bunked, when the society is not fully aware, neither prepared for the critical thinking and verification of the source of information. And the last and very worrying one is that we see this efficiency of this information spread by social platforms in the countries, in the societies that are deeply polarized, where the level of social trust is very, very low. And in that regard, Anno Domini 2025, Poland is worryingly similar to what we see in Romania. I would keep it as a red flag. I would keep it as a very important lesson we need to learn very fast.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dominika Kasprowicz, Jagiellonian University, was our guest this morning. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's it in this edition of World Talk. Stay tuned to TVP World for more news.